Welcome back to Real Surreal. My name is Lex. I use any pronouns.
I'm Ava. I use any pronouns.
I'm Michaela. I use she, her pronouns.
I'm Esther, and I also use she, her pronouns.
This week we're going to talk about An Honest Liar by Tyler Measom and Justin Weinstein. This film, well, it's a documentary. It's about the Amazing Randi, who is a magician, and what is it called when you're disproving magic? Or
Debunking?
Yeah.
And like a debunker. That's the word I'm looking for. This is going great. And a debunker of magic and psychics, very closely following in the steps of his idol Houdini, who he mentions a lot at the very beginning and copies a lot of his tricks. And like Houdini did, after a certain amount of time of performing magic, moves into debunking, and Randi takes it to a whole nother level with the help of a bunch of young men who are willing to help him, which is a weird relationship he has with a lot of young men, which, listen, it had to be said. I'm sorry. It was a little weird.
Is that how we're starting this?
That is how I'm starting this. That is how I'm starting this.
Yeah. That's a valid.
It really does lead you into every single topic. Like,
yeah, every time he interacted with a young man and he used the young men for his projects
to debunk things.
Yeah,
it's true. Sorry, I say that. Sorry, I also want to say I say that I genuinely very much enjoyed the film and think that Randi is a very intelligent human being. It's just it happened a lot and it needed to be mentioned.
So to start off strong, I think we should start off with the use of interviews in this film. Interviews were used a lot. Obviously, it's really what drove the film, especially like when we started off with the interview of like Randi himself, and then later on we also did the interview with other people that he used for his projects, like Ava mentioned, and there was also like different uses of interviews. I don't know if you guys want to talk about that, because I know.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. There's definitely some interviews that I feel like were there just because they were big names. Like, I don't think Adam Savage or Penn and Teller really added anything to the story, or the musician.
Oh, Alice Cooper.
Alice Cooper. I don't think they really added a lot to the documentary, but they were just like big names that were recognizable to the demographic that was existing when the film was produced. I do think there's definitely a distinction in two different styles of interview. There's a more casual interview that is most of the time done with Randi. There's the diner informal interview, and at the very end there's an informal interview where we do hear the director asking questions, which I think is the first time we hear anyone asking a question. And it's also a very moment that they added at the very end, to like where he's like, I've told you what I want to tell you. I have no further comment on this. And if you film anything else about this, I want it scrapped. They do add in the end that every part of the interview was allowed by Randi, but I just thought it was interesting that there was that moment where it seemed like he didn't want that to be shown.
I think that including the fact that the director was talking to him, like for almost the entire film, we really don't hear, or like for the entire film, we don't really hear like the director talking to Randi or like anyone. So having that voice seemed like a more like informal conversation about what happened. Just like it brings a lot of attention to that scene. And I think if I think about this movie years later, I'm probably gonna think of that one, just because having the director's voice like definitely emphasized it. And
it really pulls you.
It's a very powerful scene. Yeah,
it really pulls you in, because like you can tell that Randi's very emotional and that this is a very sensitive topic for him. And the fact that they chose to include like the question just showed how this wasn't just something casual. This was emotion. This was raw emotion. And this was a sensitive topic that they couldn't just pretend was like just something like, oh yeah, whatever, brush it to the side. No, it was like intense feelings. And that was definitely emphasized by the use of them personally asking the questions and including that to show that this isn't just like a normal interview.
I also just want to touch on the fact that it's very clearly one director is talking to him and another one is behind the camera, which is done in a lot of documentary films. There's oftentimes, or like in the film Grey Gardens, it's two brothers, or in the documentary Grey Gardens, it's two brothers doing the filming. So there's always the one asking the questions and then the person behind the camera. I don't know who's talking because it isn't mentioned and it isn't in like the subtitles, but I just think it's a distinction that they were willing to ask the question, even though they knew it. But also, Randy got really mad about it, and they were like, "We're really not trying to push you," but they were definitely trying to push him.
Yeah, that's what they tend to do for interviews. Is they'll be like, "We're not trying to push you to answer this question, but we're gonna keep asking questions that are also similar to this question, in hopes of you answering."
Esther, do you have anything you want to add about the interviews? Sorry.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Yes, I do. Actually, I disagree with what you said earlier, kind of. You remember how you were saying, like, you think that, like, the other people that were interviewed, like, didn't really add anything?
Well,
Wait, let me explain. Sorry.
No, you're good.
I 100% agree with the fact that they didn't add that much like substance to like the actual narrative of what was going on and like the actual like plot. But would I be lying if I wasn't like, oh my God, Penn and Teller, oh my God, Alice Cooper? Like that was like cool to watch them like be interviewed, and like obviously this guy is like kind of an OG like magician in a way, and also just like mythbuster. And so like the fact that they had, and I think also Alice Cooper, I think he was relevant because they had a whole segment about how Alice Cooper like used Randy as like a supplement for his stage presence. So I feel like that part was maybe the only part that actually had some substance in there to kind of show how like Randy was like immersed in like different cultures of like media, not only magic but like music as well, and how he was like a pop culture kind of guy. But like yeah, Penn and Teller didn't really add anything, but I also think that it was cool because like they're fellow famous magicians, like they probably really look up to him, so I don't know. But I think most documentaries do that as like a way to just like make it more fun.
Yeah, I think that's what I was trying to say, that they're there to draw in new audience members that maybe wouldn't have seen it. Like I know, like obviously not documentaries most of the time, but like if I was watching a film, if there was a specific actor in it, I may be more likely to see it if they're in it or publicized to be in it than if they weren't, which is what I was trying to say. Like, I'm more likely to watch a Werner Herzog documentary because I know Werner Herzog has a very distinct accent and does a lot of over like voice of God situation, which I think is always funny. But I don't know, like if it was just like even if it was just a cameo from Werner Herzog, I would still be more willing to watch that one than one that didn't have it. I think that's kind of what drew in the people. I wasn't saying that they didn't add anything. They were definitely there intentionally. Just no substance was added by there.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. And I also think like as we were talking about, like in the end, I think it was definitely a choice to, you know, interview Uri Geller because this entire time they're just talking really badly about him, and they're saying like he is basically like the enemy in this situation. And for them to be like, wait, actually no, we got an interview with him, like he's actually in this documentary. I thought that was like a total like plot twist, kind of like, oh my God, I was like, wait, what? They have an interview with him? So I thought that was pretty cool, and I think that was definitely like an intentional choice to be like, you know, it's been years past and like we're kind of all like a little bit more evolved than like whatever was happening.
I'll be honest, I think it would have been pretty easy to get that interview. I think that man wants to be on screen, wants the attention. Yeah. I don't think that was like even like when they were digging into him, like they were showing these interviews and you're like, he's gonna show up. Like you know he's gonna show up from the very beginning because like they're digging into this man. But like they're like he keeps coming back and then he comes back for this documentary. And
he seems like he thinks that he's better than everybody else. So
he does.
I didn't expect it because I feel like his like if it wasn't for like money, maybe he would have been like no, like his ego, you know, like would have been like
I like that he's selling things.
Debunked. and then never let that, like, his ego was just so big. He was like, no, I'm still great. I'm still amazing. And now he's selling jewelry. He's
no
selling
longer he's no longer a psychic, he's a mystifier.
Yeah, he's a mystifier selling jewelry to people.
Yeah.
I think including him like as an interview kind of gives like a both side situation, even though I feel like it's pretty clear the film
is one side.
leans towards one side because, you know, like he's been debunked. But I think having him in there at least is like, hey, we're at least hearing him out, even if he's been proven wrong several times.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I just want to bring in the next topic, which is direct observation.
Can I make one more point about interviews? Because Vox Populi, that's also like a type of interview as well, so I thought we may as well cover it right now during this topic. And I wanted to mention this specific time where it was when Carlos was like the first hoax. Carlos, it was when like everybody was like, oh yeah, like he's a psychic, and then they put together these short like little like snippets of these people, and they're like, hey, do you believe that like this person is legit? And then it just kept showing snippets of people being like, oh yeah, this man is legit, like he's 100% real, we believe him completely. And then immediately after that that snippet of interviews, it just is like, he's a hoax. And it's just like, it's like whiplash, and it just like, it hits you because it shows these people 100% fully believing, and then they just get like hit with it's all a hoax.
I do think that's Vox Populi, but I think it's also found footage.
Yeah, I agree with that too.
They're not going out onto the street and doing
it.
So I don't actually know. Like, I don't know for this specific documentary if that would be classified as Vox Populi.
I feel like
it could be Vox, but I think it could be both.
I think it can be both.
Yeah.
A lot of the interviews like can be like found footage, and then a lot of like, you know what I mean? Like actual interviews versus like TV show interviews, like,
because I feel like not everything needs to be strictly in one category, and I think it can be found footage as well as Vox Populi, because it is still Vox Populi. It was just an older, like it was still set up that way originally. They just took that found footage and then used it themselves.
That's what makes it like a kind of more like one of the questions that we have to answer is about like what's unique about it, and I think that can be definitely like an aspect where it's like layers of, you know, like categories that can fit under what a documentary is supposed to be all in one.
I agree.
To go on to direct observation, I think one of like two moments that really stuck out to me were the obviously like what Ava was saying before, with the like opening shots of him of Randy in the diner, and just him kind of being his like goofy self and like saying hi to all like the waitresses and stuff. And then I also think something that hit me really hard was the like little like aspects of his relationship, like when Alvarez like flies in and like they kind of like reunite and they're like in the house together when they're like celebrating his birthday. I think that those are like really sweet moments that kind of like humanize Randy, because so far it's like he's just go go go, like he's always like whatever, but it kind of gives like a more like, okay, he has a family, he loves someone. It makes him more like relatable, and it shows that he's like a real person besides all of this like media stuff that they've been covering.
Talking about like the observation part with him and his husband Davey or Jose, I think including like scenes of him with his husband, because this was released in 2014. I think they were able to get married, but this was like before gay marriage was fully legalized, even during the whole for the whole country. So I think this was a very important, like an important film, and like showing like, you know, two like queer men like being happy together and just like living their lives, I think is also like was also important to show like and like humanize them. And I understand they were able to get married, like it might have been like the state they were, I don't know what state they live in.
They didn't move, they went to Washington to get married at the end of it.
But I think just keeping in like the context of when this film was released, I think it was very like powerful, like just being able to see like these two men living their lives together.
I don't know when this started filming, but I thought it was interesting. There was also those clips of Randy, which I do think was direct observation, thinking back on it, when he's around the same age as he is when they're doing the documentary, when he's going around to different countries.
Yeah.
That I do think was filmed by these directors during this time period, because it does feel like they're very intentionally following him. It almost feels like not direct cinema, because that implies he isn't aware of the camera, but the verite,
Cinema verite, yeah.
cinema verite. It almost felt like that, where it was like they were just following him around, which I thought, and I know no one else has been subjected to a documentary class, so I'm going to reference another two documentaries that no one else has seen probably. Don't Look Back, which is a very one of the very first examples I ever saw of cinema verite, which is about that singer, that folk singer, that really famous folk singer. I'm not going to remember the name of. I'm really struggling tonight. But it follows him, and it's almost feels like some of those shots are taken from that, where it's following him behind him into these conferences where he's meeting people and signing things, where no one's really addressing the camera in the room, but it's there, and that is direct observation in my mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. You go for it.
Okay. Just another one I wanted to mention of like him. It's just showing. It's near the like more start of the film, and it's before we like really like they kind of hinted to it that they became a relationship, but it's before that happened. It was when they were like examining the plants, and they're out and they're being filmed like out examining the plants together. And like Lex said, it really just shows how like yes, this man is like extremely popular and like he's a huge social figure, but he also has his own life, and he's also just like a normal person like us. And they were just going out looking at plants, and like he was just telling his love interest about plants, which was really wholesome. And it was just like a really nice like sweet moment that was just different than the whole like debunking a bunch of stuff.
Yeah. Should we move on to graphics and photos?
Yeah. I think we do graphics and photos and found footage together.
I agree, because I wanted to start off with near the start of the film when they use found footage, graphics, and pictures, all of them, as a way to show like the amazing Randi and who he is, and to start to tell it like to start telling his story, because we got like found footage of his old performances and found footage of him like going on interviews and going on talk shows, and then we got like newspapers and pictures of him. And there's this one piece where it's like they just kept giving back-to-back pictures of when he was younger, and then it like kept going to when he would get older. And that was like a very strategic use to tell like his story, because the rest of the documentary we get snippets of his story, but it's also mostly focused on his debunking rather than who he was as a magician.
Yeah, I think it's also interesting the use of compare and contrast with graphics and photos between him and Harry Houdini. Because they'll show a graphic of Harry Houdini, and then they'll show or a photo or a graphic. Most of the time they were posters. Yeah. And then it would switch to Randi doing the same exact magic trick, just like show how similar they were. And they were really trying to hammer home how similar those two were. And as somebody who did go through a Harry Houdini phase, it was, listen, there were dark times. I had to do a research paper on somebody, and I wanted to be quirky and different, so I chose Harry Houdini because I'm a normal person. But
it really shows his inspiration.
Yeah, it really shows his inspiration. I'm really outing myself, and this is really embarrassing for me. But okay.
No
Yeah.
judgment. This is a judgment-free zone, Ava. It's okay.
Clearly, no one else went through a Harry Houdini phase. You guys are missing out. He's a really cool guy.
Listen, last episode I outed myself as an anime watcher, so
No, it's just somebody's.
Esther, we gotta out ourselves about something at
Yeah,
some
you
point.
guys have to out
So they
yourself
don't
as
feel
something,
lonely.
so I don't feel embarrassed.
Maybe next time.
Yeah.
Maybe
next
next time.
episode.
Um, but I was just gonna say, yeah, I totally agree with what you guys are saying. I think also like the contrast between like how when they were kind of narrating about how like Uri Geller would go on a talk show and do something, and then like Randy would just follow him and debunk the same thing, and they would show back-to-back clips and like the contrast of that, and then like people being so happy with Uri in these interviews and then being so upset with Randy for debunking them. Like I just thought that use of like back-to-back clips was so smart, and I also think like when they put little like pieces of like newspaper or like pictures, like that just like the contrast there was like so like real. And I just also like I think it was cool how they added his appearance on Happy Days, um, as well as like a found footage, because they were only using pretty much like interviews and stuff like that before that. And but like for them to like kind of incorporate like his like media presence within like TV shows and how he was like a real celebrity instead of just like this niche like thing that like only magicians know or like only, other debunkers know. It's like he was on, like television that most people watch, so he was kind of like this figure. But yeah, I thought that was a good use of found footage as well.
It was kind of like a montage back
Yeah.
and forth between, and I thought that was really I liked watching that. It was just really funny seeing Uri do something and
I was
then
like,
just
get him, like,
oh,
yeah.
get his ass.
I also just want to mention the pop-off hoax in this moment because I don't think it's graphic photo or found footage, but they use the radio recording.
That's voiceover, I think.
But I don't think it's voiceover because it is a recording that had already existed in the past. The woman isn't re-voicing it. It's not
true.
It's because there is no reenactment. It isn't in this documentary. It isn't. Oh, I don't think it's a true voiceover. I think
Not a true voiceover. It's just
I think it fits into one of the photographic or found footage. I think it almost leans towards found footage because it does, while you're hearing the voiceover or the radio, you are seeing pop off.
It's like a layered found footage.
It's a layered found footage where you're hearing her say it and then he's repeating it.
Yeah.
So I think I would lean towards found footage, but I thought that entire hoax was really interesting.
Yeah. And
but I also sorry.
No, they totally showed it. Like they did a really good job of like showing like when like real live like, oh, this was what was happening on the radio frequency. Like I agree.
But I also think it's so the guilt the people who were associated with Randy feel for the debunks. Like the guy who was finding the radio frequency expressed guilt. The two high school kids
that
they were now grown adults that became the subjects felt this guilt, but everyone they were debunking continued to be successful after being debunked. They had no reason to feel guilty for what they had done because it's so ingrained to trust what you're seeing, because even if you're told that's not true, I think that this kind of touches, and maybe I should wait till the very end to go into this, and I will go more in depth. Randy says this several times where it's people trust what they see if they're told through a documentary, which I thought this was very interesting that he called out documentaries. If you're told through a documentary that something is true, you're not going to do your own research into it. You're going to be like, these people knew what they were talking about. They did their documentary.
Yeah.
Obviously, they're telling us the truth.
Yeah.
And I think that in and of itself, being in a documentary and that comment, like, were any of us going to go look up Randy after this documentary? Did we feel like we had enough information on him? We learned his story through this documentary. Does it really matter anything else? Right. Could he have been a terrible person? Maybe. Am I going to look into it? No.
Yeah.
I got this point of view. Like, this is the story we're told.
Yeah.
You did say they stayed successful like after, but I think they like getting debunked definitely like hit the people that were being debunked in certain ways. Like even though Uri Geller is like still trying to ride off that fame, I think the fact that he got debunked is
But
why he was
Popoff also
oh
came back.
pop yeah.
Like
Um
Popoff came back. People still believe in psychics.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, no, for sure. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
no, go ahead.
But what you were saying before about like people feeling guilty, like the whole found footage of like the Carlos hoax where he was just like on the floor being like, I don't want to do this, like I can't do it. Like that was like, oh my God, like there is such a
Yeah,
psycho.
there's also every single young man he interacts with has these moments of, oh my God, I want to stop doing this. I don't want to
Yeah,
continue
and
doing
they
this.
just
And then
don't.
Randy being like, no, no, no. Just
It's for a
hold
good
on, like,
cause.
it's
Yeah.
for a good cause. Just wait
Yeah.
another like 2 months. And they're also like, he at this point, I know I mentioned it at the very beginning, he at this point during most of the debunks is in between 50 and 75.
Yeah, it's a weird age.
These are 17-year-old, 18-year-old, 19-year-olds. Like these are young men. They are not, they are for sure not like fully functioning.
And they're like
Not
on the verge of
developed.
breakdown.
Yeah, they're on the verge of breakdowns. They have this immense guilt. And Randy's just like, it's fine, it's for a good cause.
Yeah.
Which if any man came up to me and I was at a breaking point and said, don't worry, you just got to keep going, it's for a good cause, I would punch that man. I would be like, no, I don't care, I don't feel good about this, I'm not going to continue doing this.
Yeah, I also just want to mention that while Popoff was on the screen, like anytime that he was on the screen, the only thing that was playing through my head was Long Island Medium. Does anybody know who I'm talking about?
I don't know who you're talking about, but like I feel like Popoff very much had like every evangelical you could think of.
I don't know if anybody here has like seen episodes of Long Island Medium, but like it's absolutely an insane show. It's just this girl, like this woman
Is
from
it the
Long
blonde woman?
Yes.
Yes.
Like bright blonde hair. She kind of just looks like she was from like Jersey Shore, but like older. And like she literally just like claims to be a psychic and she goes around like she'll be in the supermarket, right? And she'll go over and touch somebody's shoulder and she'll be like, who died? And like it's the craziest show ever. Like it's absolutely insane. And every time I used to watch it, like I stopped watching it. Like I didn't really watch that much of it, but like clips would come up and I would be like, this is absolutely crazy. And this is Popoff is the OG. Like this is who she is inspired by. I just like
Well,
it never ends. It's always
crazy.
like
I do think, sorry, I'm gonna slightly disagree. I think she calls herself a medium.
Yeah.
Like she
calls herself a
communicates
psychic.
that,
Yeah.
but Popoff is, like I said, a tele-evangelical, so he's speaking to God directly.
Yeah.
So like there's a difference there. And also like, not to go back to Houdini, because again, I know too much about this man, but he like famously was anti-mediums. Like he would fuck with these people. He would like sell that he believed them and then be like, no one's died. He also, this is like such a niche thing that I know. Houdini to his wife before he died had a code with her, so she would know if he was actually communing with her from the dead, which is like such a niche way to debunk somebody. And like, go off, dude. That's a real ride or die you got there. But I think he doesn't, I don't think Randy really touches
like,
mediums.
get the code. Sorry, that just really intrigued me. Did like
No,
did
no.
anything happen with that?
No, none of the mediums. Like his wife was sent out to, after he died, to go to every single medium and ask about Harry Houdini, and then he would never get the code, and she was like, "You guys are fake."
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's just like a general theme of like emotional and like psychological manipulation. Like
yeah.
like scams across the board, no matter
Yeah.
what like, they're trying to communicate with.
Yeah.
Unless you guys have anything else you want to say about like graphics and photos and found footage, I think we should talk about like the lack of reenactment, just to touch on that.
Could I make one more point about found footage?
Different.
I just wanted to mention this one found footage that like got me like really emotional. Like it was really in there to get you emotional throughout like all this like debunking and stuff. And it was when he nearly died because of the milk one that he tried to do.
Yeah.
And when like we got that found footage of him in the container, and people were just casually walking around just waiting for him to like come out, and as the time kept going and going and going, you just sat there with the anxiety going higher and higher. And like obviously you knew he didn't die because he has a documentary
I
on
also
talking. Yeah.
I also loved that moment because that wasn't shot. That, I mean, obviously that was filmed, but that was a rehearsal, because they film rehearsals, because if something ends up not going well during the actual live show, they'll bring in the rehearsal footage. I think that's how that works anyway, but they always record. So like that wasn't even performed in front of an audience.
Yeah.
That was him and the cameras. And also all the power to that man, because then it shows him on the like hospital bed. If I went to the hospital with like discs in my back fucking thrown out, I'd be like, sorry man, I can't come back on this show tonight. It ain't gonna happen.
I feel like that's what made this like found footage so important to this documentary, because it shows how committed he is to like everything. He's committed to be a magician. He's committed to debunking people. Like he is committed. Even after he just almost died and we watched him almost die, this man comes back and he's like, guys, I'm all good. I might just probably shouldn't be doing that trick because I'm getting old. But he was like, yeah, I'm all good.
I feel like he's the physical embodiment of committing to the bit. Like he will commit. There is like, once he's in it, he's like, I am not pulling out of this. I will.
Yeah, he would do year-long
secrets. Yeah, which is crazy. Admire that in him. I would have been like, no, I'm good. Sorry, guys.
Okay,
but,
let's move on.
Do we want to talk about reenactment or the lack
thereof? There's no reenactment in this documentary.
It would be weird. It would be really weird if there was reenactment, but I guess if there wasn't like found footage,
yeah,
it would make sense to have reenactment.
I think what lends itself to this documentary is the fact there's not reenactment. I oftentimes, when there's intensive reenactment in documentaries, it really pulls you out, because you're like, that's not the guy we're watching right now. That's not the same person. But I also think this Randi as a person lends himself to a documentary because he was so famous, because he had so much found footage to be used.
Yeah,
like
it was a good subject.
It was a good subject to use for somebody who knew that they weren't going to have a lot of reenactment. Also, reenactment is expensive.
Yeah,
like for documentaries, like the budget for a documentary,
you have to hire so many like actors, and like if you have
to like make sure they don't die.
Yeah, like if you have the found footage, you may as well use it, because then you don't have to pay for actors to reenact everything and like keep shooting and stuff like that. You just can use the footage, clip it in, and then there you go. You're done.
I think also like for safety reasons, he's a very hard person to do reenactment for. Unless you have a magician who looks enough
really like long contract. Yep.
A really long contract, a lot of safety measures, because this man was doing crazy things, and anyone who wasn't Randi or a magician, it just wouldn't have worked. So I think,
imagine if they had to like reshoot, but with another, like with an actor, that one where he's on a helicopter just going, just hanging from the
Niagara Falls
upside down. Just like, imagine if you had to reshoot that, but like with an actor, like, no, who's gonna say yes to
that? I think that's all I have for reenactment, or the lack thereof.
Yeah.
I think just in general, like, to just like circle everything together, I think like all of these like elements like kind of are used, not all of them obviously, because we just talked about how reenactment isn't used, but besides that, I think like the use of all of these elements, and like especially the fact that some of them overlap, is just kind of shows like how the anti-hero like perspective, like it and its like effect on society, and like we're seeing this as if like we're going through it also, and like it's very much like an educational film, I think, and like it kind of just like raises awareness, and also makes you just like like more aware of like history as well as just like, like what it actually means to be a non-traditional like kind of hero in a sense, and like the kind of like morals that go along with that. But I think that this documentary did a really good job of like combining all these elements to try and make it, smooth and like very entertaining.
Yeah, I think the message is also kind of important because I feel like even when I was watching this, I was like, how could anyone believe this? But but now for us, it's like stuff like TikTok, like where just like there's misinformation being spread everywhere and people will just so easily like believe it and easily be deceived. Like there's like been like weird like myths going on like TikTok and like obviously fake things and people will believe them. So I think this message, like even if it's about like magicians and like psychics and stuff from like a very specific period or like period in history, I think it's still like the message is just always going to be like universal. Like we all can get deceived, basically.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what I was trying to touch on earlier when I said I would come back to it at the end. And I think we just like to mention the last two things briefly. There was like voiceovers from the interviews, and there was the one moment that we mentioned of Vox Populi. But what I think the movie or the documentary is really trying to get across, and what Randi, through his debunking and through all of the stories that we are getting from him, is to not just trust blindly in what you're being informed of, or there was that one moment during an interview with him when somebody said the first step in believing that something is true is considering it not, I can't remember the exact phrasing of it, but it's like, you don't believe in psychics because you don't even think a psychic could exist. And to like, they're trying to rationalize it in their own head and they sound batshit crazy while they're trying to explain it. They're like, you have to first believe that psychics can exist.
Yeah.
Then believe that this psychic is actually doing what he's saying he's doing. And Randy's like, this is like, looks so confused at what this man is saying. And it's just a moment that kind of stood out to me of like, what is truth and how are we understanding it in that moment? And I just wanted to point that out.
I wanted to go back to what was said earlier about him being like an anti-hero, because like we mentioned before, like he was doing all these like tests that were like years on years of just like manipulation and lies, and like morally like it feels so wrong, yet at the same time it was beneficial because those things were debunked. But like specifically like when they were like, it was those two guys and they were fooling the psychiatrists and like the psychists and like all those people who were like, we're doing this for science, research for science, and they were being fooled for years and years. And then those poor kids were like going through so much mental stress. And that's already like a moral dilemma. But also when he was being interviewed and the interviewer got really, really angry, he was like, you set them back years and years and years for nothing. And then he was like, I didn't set them back, I moved them forward because now they know that like these are hoaxes. And like it really shows like the anti-hero-esque where he's doing things that seem like immoral and wrong, but there is a good outcome for it. People are being proven to be liars. And then another thing I also wanted to mention is just like, while this documentary is very like anti-hero and showing his life and stuff like that, I thought it was very ironic that the love of his life also turned out to be a false identity, and like he got accidentally debunked himself. And I just thought like that was just like a whole like 180 that you don't expect. And it's just like, it's like a wow, like even the man who was trying to debunk people himself fell into a conspiracy, not really conspiracy, but fell into like a belief that he believed, and now like he's hurt because that was his lover.
I agree, but I think the documentarians do like this really interesting thing, which I don't know if anyone else caught it, but there's an interview towards the very beginning with Adam Savage, and he says, but he himself was living, it was like something about him at the root of his story having like this big secret. And then it cuts to Randi and Jose in a garden.
I thought they were just gay. I thought that was the secret.
Oh, no, that was so obvious. So I was like, something else is going on here.
I thought that was like the secret that they were hiding.
These guys are so gay for each other. And I think also, they also show this clip, which they reuse at the end, where it's one of these is the real Jose Alvarez, and is sworn to tell the truth. And there was no way they were adding that.
They added that after we found out that wasn't even.
They added it after we found out, but they also added it at the very beginning, and it shows him, and he seems so fucking nervous.
Because he's not the real one. Like, even
he's not the real Jose Alvarez.
Just like it
also
was like
my favorite moment.
Like, one of them was telling the truth. No, none of them were telling the truth.
Also, during like, I think I always love at the end of films where it's like, where are they now? And it mentioned that the real Jose Alvarez missed his sister's wedding because he couldn't get a passport.
That's funny.
That was sad. That was so sad.
I was like, damn, that guy really up that guy's wedding.
I was like, damn, he missed his sister's wedding. That's so sad.
And for what?
To not be abused.
But also, like, is there... I feel like Jose Alvarez is a pretty common name.
Is it? I don't know.
Yeah, but it might be with like the same like social security or like
because like they gave him an they gave him a dead person's identity, but it actually like wasn't a dead person's identity, so it probably got like his social security and everything, because you kind of need that to like get a passport and survive and all of that.
But that also implies that the other guy never had a bank account.
That's
because you also need your social security for your bank account. I'm just saying, I feel like they're giving multiple Jose Alvarez's, and I'm not, whatever. I'm just saying, I think there's something more going on here, but... I
mean, I don't blame the guy, because, like, you know, he wanted a safe life, he wanted a better life. Just like, dang, that sucked.
I'm doing trivia this week, and I have 4 questions. I might cut it down to 3. We'll see. But they're all focused on Randi instead of the actual documentary, because there wasn't a whole lot of trivia about the actual documentary that I could find. Question 1, magicians are known to have weird pets. What type of animal did Randi have as a pet? Did he have a rabbit? I'm gonna give you choices. I'm not gonna be like, yes. A rabbit named Sophia or Sophie, a tiger named George, a dove named Maria, or a Kickajou named Sam.
I feel like rabbit is too obvious. I'm gonna go with tiger.
I want to say tiger.
I kind of want to go with D.
Are you going? So you guys are doing tiger, Kickajou? It was a Kickajou named Sam, so D was correct.
What is a Kickajou?
It's like a flying monkey. It's not a flying monkey. It's like those really small monkeys with really big eyes.
It gives off magician vibes for me. Just like having
it gives off magician vibes. I just thought that was like a weird. These all came from IMDb. If you click on Randi, these things come up, which is wild. Randi, it's mentioned in the documentary, broke Harry Houdini's underwater record when he was sealed in a metal coffin at the bottom of a swimming pool. How long was Randi underwater? I can also give you Houdini's record if that would help, but I'll just give you Houdini's. Houdini's record was 91 minutes.
And he beat 91?
I don't think he was holding his breath. I think the coffin was sealed. It's a sealed metal coffin.
Oh, okay, so there's like no oxygen.
They're not like drowning.
Wait, I'm so confused on how that works. Wait, okay.
So they're sealed in a coffin and then put in the bottom of a lake, and then they have to break out and swim to the top.
That is absolutely insane.
Listen, several people have done this. Anyways, so Houdini's record is 91 minutes. He broke this record. He was there for longer. A, 104 minutes. B, 95 minutes. C, 110 minutes, or D, 99 minutes?
Oh, I totally just guessed like without the multiple choice. It's okay.
What did you say? Sorry, I didn't even hear you.
At first I was like 150, but I didn't wait for you to say the
Yeah,
choice.
there's options. I'm not gonna just be like, yes, go for it.
Randomly guess.
I'm going with 99.
Me too. Lex, you and I are like
Well,
this today.
now I feel like I
Yes.
can't guess that. Okay, I'm gonna guess 104. I guess.
Michaela, you're really killing it because it is 104 minutes.
See, you
Okay.
don't see. This is what happens when you don't follow. You have
Don't
to
follow.
You
Don't
can't
follow.
be a follower. You have to be a leader.
I am.
So question number 3. Many people have named names for their cars, and Amazing Randi is no different. What was the name of he gave to his 2002 teal blue Miata? A, Maria, B, Juan, C, Sophie, or D, George?
George.
I'm gonna go with Sophie because I feel it. I don't know. You mentioned that with the rabbit thing earlier. Maybe it'll be right this time. I don't know.
I'll go with B because I said I won't be a follower. I was gonna say George, but I'll go with B.
It is Sophie.
Oh,
Let's
dang.
go.
The one time I don't side with Lex.
George.
one
Also, these names I listed, except for Juan, are not random. Maria and George came up in both of the animal names and the car names because that is his parents' names.
Yeah.
I don't know the significance of Sophie or Sam. Nah. And then this one is just this was just wild to me. What was the age gap? Because Randi is sadly no
I
longer
know.
with us.
I looked this up and I literally
I did
forgot.
too.
Yeah.
It's okay. I just wanted it to be in the video because I thought this shit was wild.
No, it is wild.
Between Randi and his husband, 35 years, 20 years, 30 years, or 25 years.
35. It has to be 35. I don't remember what
35.
it was, but I remember looking it up.
It's 30, so
30, yeah.
Still awful.
Wow, that's an age gap.
Yeah.
that is a crazy age gap.
But all right, so
one could say perhaps unethical because he met him when he was 19 and was not a full-grown matured adult, but hey, you be a 55-year-old dating a 19-year-old.
Yeah. To close things off on a lighter note, well, not really lighter note, actually.
Nope.
But it's not really a lighter note. I have a question for you all. And
the professor.
Yes, I want the professor to answer as well. How long do you think you could keep up a lie to not just like a small group, like to the entire world and like to an entire like association, like those two teenagers did? Since we are also teenagers, how long do you think you could last in a lie? And do you think you could make it to the end, or do you think you'd like just snap?
I have too much.
I think it depends. Like if it was like,
how big of a lie are we talking?
I'm talking about like for research. Maybe
yeah, I'm talking about like for research, and you had to live a lie in front of like everybody.
But if I was like living a lie like Jose was, like if I couldn't even tell like my significant other the truth, I would not last long. I would like have a deep trust issues.
I'm a really bad liar, so not that long. Like I cannot lie for shit, so not that long. I would.
My mother and father called me a pathological liar for a very long time in my childhood.
Even more, Ava. Thank you.
No, it's. I can defend myself. It's the ADHD, so like it's for sure like I lie out of my own personal guilt for having like the truth be I wasn't listening or I didn't do something that you specifically told me to do because my brain wasn't letting me. So I would rather die on a hill than tell the truth in those situations. Like when my parents are like, "Did you do your homework?" Yes, I did do my homework. I will look my parents in the eye and say, "Yes, I did my homework." They won't know until professor emails them and is like, "She hasn't handed in a single goddamn thing for me."
So Ava, would you like accidentally guilt trip yourself into doing a lie?
Yes, 100%.
Okay.
Esther, what about you? question.
I feel like I totally would not be able to handle that kind of pressure. I hate lying to people. I feel so guilty about it. And also, I've been watching that like Anna Delvey, like
Yeah.
and I cannot believe that she kept that up for so long. Like every
She's also
restaurant,
a terrible liar.
I know she's also a terrible liar, and I'm like, if
Terrible liar.
like I'm a better liar than that, and I still couldn't keep it up as long as she did. So that just says something. I
I
don't
feel like
know.
if it was like for research, like I would want to with somebody doing research. Like
If it was like this stuff, like anti-hero stuff, I feel like I could do it because I feel like I'm doing it for like a bigger purpose. But would I feel guilty? Yes.
I don't think I could do it because I think I would just feel like so guilty to the point where like these people are spending so much time on me and I'm lying to them. And also there's the fear of I'm gonna get caught. And I cannot stand that feeling. I don't like the feeling of almost getting caught. I have bad anxiety. So I would just snap like and so they'd be like, guys, I'm lying. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I would not be a good option for Randy. I sound like the only good option is Ava if you guilt trip her into it.
no, it's like, but it gets like bad when you're so deep into a lie that like when you have to. I think actually the worst part of being that deep in a lie is the moment you have to tell people that you're in a lie.
Yeah,
because
sure.
then it's like all of this guilt that you've been like building up just like comes crashing in, and you're like,
And then there's
oh,
trust issues.
tears.
The trust issues
Yeah.
come in then too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
All
I
right.
think we got some good answers.
Yeah. I think we learned a lot about me in this episode.
Too much.
Well,
I'm
thank
sorry,
you guys.
guys.
Thank you guys so much for watching. Next video to be determined.
Yes.
Please
And
like and subscribe.
Good afternoon.
yeah, please like and
Bye,
subscribe.
Sydney.
And maybe you'll learn more about Esther and I next video. Maybe. We'll see. Because you already learned about Lex and Ava.
Coming up soon. Yeah.
All right.
Bye.
That's fine.
Bye.